If you play games, then you probably like winning, and I'm going to tell you today how you can win at tabletop role-playing games. Let's talk about that. Hey fellow Game Masters, I'm Richard Quiner, and welcome back. And this episode we are talking about winning at tabletop role-playing games. And I know what you're probably thinking, there is no way to win, it's just telling a story. And yes, you're right in that regard, but also, I have a win condition, and that is to have fun. It's a pretty basic, simple rule. But I'm going to share some ideas on how you can try and have more fun, kind of open your mind to the fun that you can find at the table, so you can always be winning no matter what. So, the way I see it, when you're playing a tabletop role-playing games, there's two groups of people that need to be having fun in order to be successful. That's the players and the game master. So, let's talk about the players a little bit. They kind of have the easiest form of fun if you really look at it. They're the adventure party, they're the heroes. All the attention of the game master is designed around building a world around the players and helping them have a good time telling the story. But sometimes as game masters we get so into our heads with preparing the adventure that we may be missing some subtle or not so subtle clues that the players are giving us about what will make things fun for them. So as game masters, there's a couple things you should try and do while you're running your games. Mainly, listen to the players and what they're saying. Like, what are they trying to do with their characters? What does their character want to do? When you can pay attention to that, you can kind of see where they lean more towards. Do they like combat? Do they like to get into fights with people? Do they prefer to go exploring and see different parts of the world that you've built? Or do they like just opening traps and puzzles? Hear what they're asking. If you have a player who's constantly checking for traps, and you, in your mind and your game, has not put any traps in there, put some traps in there. The player will have more fun because they're checking for traps, and if they find a trap that they can then disarm, for them that's a good time. And they're kind of telling you that by asking to check for traps. That's just one example. But you can also see that with players when they constantly try to get in fights or they seek out the conflict with an NPC or something. Those are the players that want combat. Put combat in your game. Help them fight. Help them have fun in that way. So it's just a good skill to have for beginners and older game masters, is just to listen to your players, hear what they're saying, and adapt your game to fit what they want. One thing that I mentioned in a previous video is that everything in your game should be surrounding your players and their characters. So think of that as you're building your game. What kind of characters did these people make? Did they make some sly, slick-talking elves that like to talk to people, or did they make barbarians that just want to smash? You have, different options, and based on the characters that the players make, you can then fill in your campaign with things that those players would enjoy doing. It's something to keep in mind, and it's a little disheartening when I hear about these situations where the game master has a story idea and the players decide that they don't want that story necessarily, but they try to find another story in there and the game master doesn't let them. When I hear about that, it tells me something's wrong, there's like a disconnect in communication, and maybe the game master is so stuck on their own story that they're not allowing the players to, play the game. So keep in mind that the players may not want to play your story. And I say they may not want to play your story because as a game masters, we come up with stories and then we give them to the players, and sometimes that doesn't work. So if they don't want to play your story, it's your job as the game master to adapt and make it your story in the your as in the whole table your. It's a shared experience between you and the players. It's not about you as the game master telling a story, it's about you and your players working together to come up with a story all at the same time. So be prepared, and I promise you will have more fun if you do this. Be prepared to change your story on the fly. Give them more of what they want, even if it's not what you prepared to begin with. You'll have a better time, the players will have a better time, and ultimately everyone's winning. Players, try to keep a couple things in mind when you're playing. First off, you're an adventure party, you're a group. It's not your adventure, you're not the hero, everyone's the hero. Whether you have 2 people playing or you have 10 people playing, everyone is part of the adventure party, everyone's the hero. Share the spotlight, let everyone play. Pay attention to the other players and what they're trying to do, and find a give and take rhythm. I promise you'll have more fun playing it as a group, than trying to be the Lone Ranger, hero, soldier, whatever you're doing. It's more fun. It's a social game, so pay attention to the other people. Share the space, so to speak. Share the time at the table with everyone. Give people the chance to be in the spotlight, even if it's not you. You'll find more enjoyment doing that and being able to enjoy other players' successes, because ultimately their success helps the party, which helps you, and that's a great thing to do. Next, players, I have some ideas of how you can help your game master have more fun as well, because yes, there's two groups at the table, as I mentioned earlier, the players and then the game master, and they both need to be having fun. So players, try to help your game master. Keep a couple things in mind while you're playing the game. First off is your game master is trying to tell a story with you. They want to create a shared experience, and you need to participate actively in that. If you're sitting at the table and your game master is trying to tell a story and you're on your phone not paying attention, not engaging with what he's giving you, he or she is giving you, then you are not actively participating, and you're making making trouble for the game master, essentially. You're making it harder for them to have fun, because while they may be trying to tell a story with you or for you, you might not be doing the same for them, or that might be how it's perceived. So pay attention when you're at the table. Try to participate. Get into what the game master is giving you, and give them some feedback by having your characters do things, that they may not think of. Try to, be real engaging, and you'll have more fun doing that, and the game master will have more fun doing that as well. It's a 50-50 relationship here. You guys both got to give and take, and find a nice balance there. Game masters, if you want to have fun, and I'm going to be pretty blunt saying this, you have to get rid of your ego when it comes to building your story and telling your story, and let the players have some space and share the space with your players. And this is about you having fun. If you are so married to the idea of your story, and this is your little story baby, and you don't want your players to mess it up, go write a book and have fun doing that, because that's the only way you're going to tell the perfect story. If you're stuck on this little baby story idea and your players aren't making it work for you, and you get upset and aren't having fun because of that, that's kind of on you. You need to change your mind, your thought process going into these games, because it's not about your story, it's about the table. I've said that like 20 times now in this video, and that's the key to having fun, is sharing with everyone and enjoying the adventure together. So think about that. Don't try to hold yourself to your little story idea too much. Give the players room to build the story with you. In addition to that, part of the thought process should be that it's not you versus the players. You're not the bad guy. You're telling the story. You're kind of the computer processing power. When you play a video game, your computer is not your enemy. The characters in the world that you're playing, like if you're playing, Fallout, you have tons of different NPCs, whether you're talking about the Institute or you go against the Brotherhood of Steel, those are the bad guys, but your computer's not the bad guy. And that's the same way in this, where you are the game master, you're more like the computer, and the players are the players, of course. So you're not the bad guy, you're just the computer. So don't think of it as you versus the players, but think of it as you working with the players. If you can change that mindset, I think you'll have a much better time telling stories, because it's just, it's not you versus them, it's you and them together versus the NPCs and the characters in the world that you've created. Now, I get the idea and the sentiment of, as a game master, you want to win sometimes, you want to have a win, and that's an okay sentiment to have, but if it gets in the way of the players playing their game and having a good adventure, then there becomes a problem and there becomes a conflict, and no one has a good time when that happens. So keep that in mind. Overall, the entire concept of having fun at the game table stems from compromise and sharing the attention and the space with everyone there, whether it's the game master or the players. So keep that in mind as you're playing. If you really want to win at tabletop role-playing games, if you want to be a good player, it comes down to compromise and sharing and being open and listening to each other and talking with each other. Honestly, it's more listening than it is talking most of the time for everybody, because there's so many people and you want to pay attention to what everyone is doing. So listen more, unless it's your turn to talk. I think if you kind of keep these things in mind and kind of take these notes to heart, whether you're new at being a game master or you're an older game master or you're a new player or an old player, you'll see you kind of have a lot more fun, a lot more fun by sharing this space. So keep that in mind. I hope this has helped. See you next week, and thank you for watching. Hey, thank you for watching. I hope this channel has been helpful to you in starting your Game Master adventure. If you feel inclined, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And as you'll see to the right and the left of the subscribe on this little end page here, there are more videos to watch on this channel. So click around, check it out, and thanks again.